Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Tasha and I'm the founder of Financial Marathon. Now, for those who are new here, I started Financial Marathon 1 year ago, and it was basically with the intent of me documenting my wealth journey since I'm still in my 20s, and I'd really like to get to the point where I don't really have to worry about how I'm going to put food on the table. And since I'm already on my journey, I thought it would be a good idea to actually document my journey, and that's why I decided to come up with Financial Marathon where I can document it all. And supplementary to YouTube, I also have a website where I post articles. But yeah, that is all. So in today's topic, we're going to be talking about emergency fund. Now, about emergency fund, I'd like to look into what an emergency fund is, how to set one up, and the recommended amount one should have. And also I'd like to talk about the difference between an emergency fund and a sinking fund, since that is really a bit confusing, and since not many people really know the difference. So we're going to look into that now. What is an emergency fund? So an emergency fund is basically finances that you put aside to help you out on a rainy day. And by rainy day, I mean that, life happens and life doesn't always go according to plan. And there's always going to be something that just pops out of the blue, whether it's a medical emergency or whether it's a car emergency, right? So an emergency fund is there to help you when a bill comes up out of nowhere, like you had not planned for it, right? We do know that there are bills which we actually plan for, like rent, medical insurance, water bill, phone bill, and all that. Those are bills we know that are coming, so we plan for them. But there are these other bills that just pop out of nowhere. We really can't control them because life happens. And it is for such things that we always have to be prepared, because they will always be there. Life will never go according to plan, so always have an emergency fund. So how to set up an emergency fund? An emergency fund is easy to set up. It's as easy as simply going to your bank and asking to open a savings account where you can just deposit money till you have stacked up your emergency fund. And the recommended duration is to have about 6 months of your monthly income set up. That is simply because in the case that you lose your job, you don't really have to worry, or you're not going to be really that stressed during that time you're jobless. So about 3 to 6 months is safe to say. If we can just look at how the past 2 years has been, I think it's really, really important to have an emergency fund in place, because what has happened, like what happened 2 years ago, no one saw coming. Absolutely no one saw it coming, and it has really ended up affecting so many people. So you see, having an emergency fund in such a situation would have really been a benefit, because you wouldn't have been as stressed as most people were, because so many people lost their jobs and so many people lost their income, and there was basically no other option other than just to rely on the government for help. Now, when we talk about an emergency fund, so many people confuse this term emergency. When we talk of emergency, we're talking of real life emergencies, right? I'm not talking about that impromptu trip that you're planning with your friends. That's not an emergency. An emergency is medical emergency, or you got in a car crash and you need to get that fixed. Maybe natural occurrence, maybe there's a storm that hit and it affected you. Those are the kind of emergencies that I'm talking about. So this is the only time you're allowed to dip into your emergency fund, right? Now, when we're talking about those impromptu trips or holidays with family and friends, this is where a sinking fund comes in. Now, a sinking fund is similar to an emergency fund. The difference though comes in how you use it, right? When you're planning for a holiday or a trip with friends and family, that is when you can actually, or saving up for a birthday party, or saving up for presents, you save them in a sinking fund, right? So sinking fund is not as serious as an emergency fund. An emergency fund, you really, really, really need it, but a sinking fund, you can actually do without it. Make sure you always have an emergency fund with you, right? Look at the benefits of having an emergency fund. Now, like I said, emergency funds are there to take care of you during sticky situations, and this ensures that you don't get unnecessary loans, right? So this means that it keeps you away from bad debt. And this is also another topic I'm going to be talking about, bad debt and good debt, and the difference, and why you should stay away from bad debt, because that's also a very, very interesting topic, so stay tuned. So having an emergency fund prevents you from getting unnecessary loans, which will end up burdening you, because when you have your emergency fund in place, you know that you always have somewhere to, you know, get your finances, and you don't have to worry about that, right? Because so even when you dip into it once in a while, it's really not that bad. Let's go to the building of an emergency fund. Now, building an emergency fund doesn't happen in 2 months or 3 months. It takes a while, right? Because remember, we're trying to build up an emergency fund that consists of 6 months of your monthly income, right? And if you put into place that you use about 80% of your income every month, you see it will take a while before you finish stabilizing your emergency fund. So it does take time, and it does take patience. You just have to remember that it will take time, and it just doesn't happen overnight, right? So you have to be patient with yourself. Building an emergency fund actually takes time. What will help you when you're in your building phase is you have to have a specific goal, right? So you see that you're going to be setting aside this amount of money every month, and that is the amount of money you're going to be setting aside every month to transfer to your emergency fund. And that way you can also be able to calculate how long it will actually take you to save up for your emergency fund, right? So always have that monthly goal, and set a realistic goal, right? You don't have to, if you really can't afford setting, let's say 500 euros per month, that's okay, that's fine. Work with what work with what is comfortable with you, because again, this is not a race. You're not competing with anyone. This emergency fund is going to benefit you and only you, no one else. So remember, you also have to like put into consideration that you have your normal monthly expenditure to take care of, like you don't forget your bills or forget your food. There's also the occasional social fund that comes into place. Don't rob yourself of that. Just do what you're comfortable with, what you won't struggle contributing each month, and you'll be good to go. It is when you're actually done with setting up your emergency fund that you can actually start working on your sinking fund, because when you're already at that point where you feel that you're okay and it doesn't matter what hits you, you'll be ready for it, that's when you can actually start working on your sinking fund, where you can actually now start saving up for vacations and holidays and impromptu getaways and all that, right? So first we work, then we play, right? Don't forget that. Work, then play. Anyway, that was a short video, but I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing more of these videos because it's the first one of this kind, and I won't lie, I was a bit nervous making it, but now it's going to get more natural, right? So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe for more videos, and don't forget to check out the website. I'm going to be uploading at least 4 posts per week, so make sure you check it out. And other than that, see you in the next video. Have a good time. Bye bye.